All right, so now we're going to have a special panel discussion. We're going to focus on common mistakes that Amazon sellers make. And I want to introduce quickly the panel that we have for you today. We have the wonderful Yael Cabilly. She's going to represent the Fortunet side of things, investment banking. And we have Melanie Shabangu. She's coming from London. Let me get clear, Southampton, which is south of London. So she's representing AVASK. They focus on tax compliance, and global expansion. And we have Shira from Cabilly & Co. Needless to say, a very famous and successful law firm that helps Amazon sellers with, compliancy, suspensions, things of that nature, trademarks, IP. So this is the panel that we have for you today. And this is going to be an interactive panel. So what you can do, guys, just take your phone or your computer, you just scan this, and you're going to be able to join us, and we're going to have some questions for you. We want to understand where you guys are at. What are you guys experiencing? What are you guys planning to do? And based on that, we're going to be able to develop the discussion in such a way that hopefully will provide you guys with value and impact. So let's see if people are getting in. I see people already kind of dropping in. You can just scan this code. If you want to use your computer, you can just visit menti.com. It's a little bit high over there. And you can put this code in. So you do that, or just scan the code like that, and you'll be able to join right in. And I'll give you guys a moment to do that. In the meantime, I guess you want to talk a little bit more about what you guys do for the background, or we got that covered? Sure. So go ahead, give us everybody, take 30 seconds each to give us a little bit more background.
Of course. So Fortunet, we're an investment banking firm. We help e-commerce sellers selling the business. It was nice to see a few dozens of businesses that we already sold here and that are planning the next exit. About you?
Yes, hi guys. It's lovely to be back in Israel. Such a beautiful country and city as well. So it's lovely to be here again. So what AVASK does, we help sellers to expand into international markets. So for sellers that are looking to incorporate their companies in the US or in Europe, or they want to register for VAT, we would be able to support them. We currently operate in around 14 countries across the world, including Australia and UAE. Australia is one of those markets that Amazon is pushing these days, where I can answer any questions if somebody has some questions on that. But yeah, our role is to expand sellers into international markets, and we work very closely with Amazon on some of the programs that we are trying to launch with them. So anybody who has any questions anyway about global expansion, then I'm going to be able to support them. And also, we've got a team outside on the AVASK stand. Thank you.
By the way, she's very humble. If you, as entrepreneurs and founders, if you have questions, she's the woman to ask. She has about 400 employees or more. I stopped counting at some point. So management questions maybe after, but she's
a power. Person. The whole team of AVASK is an empire. She's a power woman. She's an inspiration, even to me. She just also recently, if you were visiting Southampton, you need a hotel. She owns a hotel. Things of that nature just shows you the level of success. So it's very impressive. So she's here obviously to help you with the tax issues. But if you're an entrepreneur, Melanie is a great person to know. She's wonderful. She's magic. So she's here for you guys to enjoy it. Shira, go ahead. Tell us a little bit more.
I'm Shira, partner at Cabilly & Co. We are an international law firm that specializes in intellectual property worldwide, any type of registration, trademarks, patents, design patents, copyrights, etc. And any I would call troubleshooting with platforms and marketplaces, if it's Amazon, Etsy, eBay, suspensions, arguing with Amazon in the legal department, we specialize in that, compliance, product compliance, contracts, anything to do with e-commerce. We try to help and provide a wholesome experience for a whole scale of services.
Fun fact, I think you guys did the trademark for Waze?
For Waze, wow, you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that, right?
Yeah,
so Waze, they turned out with a good exit, I guess. And,
yeah, that was in 2005 or something.
Yes,
yeah.
I remember that when you said that. Any other interesting trademarks you want to mention or no?
I don't know, probably like 40-50% of the people sitting
of the room,
here.
wow, okay, it's pretty good. Okay, so thank you everybody for joining. We're going to start with the first question for you, so you guys can give us the input. Let's start with a simple question. Are you planning to sell your business? right? Is it yes? Is it no? Is it not applicable? Take a moment to answer that. We'll see where you guys are at. And then we have another question for you, and then we're going to basically redirect the question to Fortunate to see what are we learning from all these answers here. So I'm going to give you guys in a few more seconds. 3, 2, 1. Let's start opening the answers, see what you guys are at. Okay, between the yes or no, it seems like most of you guys are. See, now it's really jumping to 40+%. So it seems like most of the environment here in the room are planning to sell their business at some point in some time, which I think is, if you asked me like 5 years ago, it wasn't the mindset. You know, when you started, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, when you're selling on Amazon, you didn't really realize if you have a real business or not, if somebody's willing to pay anything for it. Today is very, very well understood that it is. So I think this whole industry is very lucky to have that opportunity to sell the business because you work hard on it, you develop it, and it's worth something that really can change your life. So now I'm going to take you guys to the second question here. The ones who said yes, you want to sell your business, in how many years do you plan to sell your business? In the next year, the next 2 years, the next 3 years, or next 4 years or plus? So what do you think right now, if you were to sell your business, what will be the time horizon for you guys to sell? I want to see where you guys are at with that. Look at that. Overwhelming majority here, I think about 2 to 3 years. 3 years seems to be kind of the way to go. So yeah, that kind of leads me to the question here. What are the common mistakes that sellers make when considering to make an exit and things of that nature?
Yeah, what's really interesting is the non-applicable. I don't know if you noticed, but at some point it's more than the yes. And I get my guess when we speak with sellers, I think out of 10 sellers, 8 want to exit someday, but they know they cannot sell it now or anytime soon. They're not ready. So I would assume a lot of them go there. I haven't met many sellers who said, no, I will never exit. Doesn't matter how many millions I get. This is my baby. I'll keep it forever. Michal and I always laughing that we're in the business of selling babies because it's, at the end you sell it. So I think the answer is more, it depends, how much. Like Pablo said, I'm open. I'll sell it, but only for, for the right price and if it makes sense. And if you ask me about the most common mistake, I think one of the most common mistakes that we see is seeing the exit as, something down the road. It's in, in a year or 2 or 3.
You see here, it says 2 to 3 years. Most of this people here, 2 to 3 years. So with that in mind, in the next 2 to 3 years, what should they expect? What's going to be the environment for them?
Right. So when they think about 2-3 years, most sellers will do just nothing about it. Okay. So if you ask me what's the most common mistakes, is really doing nothing about it, not even starting to think about it, because there are things you can do now that you cannot do later. So for us, for example, we often start working with sellers over a year before we sold the business. There's several here that we sold. We worked with them for a year, and the things we did during that year, we could not do it if we were to sell it at the last minute.
Is there simple examples you give us? So what can you do now that you cannot do in 2-3 years, like most of the sellers want to do?
I'll give you one example. Okay, many of the sellers, especially the larger ones, and there's a lot in this room. They often register their trademark at the beginning when they have their first product, and then they forget about it. Okay, I have my brand registry. I continue. I launch new product, additional, completely different products, and then when they come to sell the business, these first products for which they registered that they covered on their trademark, they don't even sell it anymore. But 99% of their revenue is for something that's not protected through their trademark. A trademark takes a year. Okay, so that's one example.
So the mistake is that you start with one brand with one trademark, but then you launch more brands and you forgot to put trademarks for them. That's kind of the
very common mistake. Nobody will buy your business if you have no trademark, if it's not protected. So if you come and you say, yes, now I'm ready, I want to sell. Hey, sorry, you need to wait about a year until.
That's a good one. Give me another one. That's pretty good, actually. Give me another one.
Yeah. So another. Thank you. Another common mistake, which I hear even today when I speak here, is there's no market. I can't sell it, even if I want to sell it. The non-applicable, I think about half of them think the market is bad. So what if I have a good business? I simply cannot sell it these days. I heard the market is terrible.
So who's buying these days?
So the truth is, it's true that many businesses cannot be sold because they're not large enough, because they're not profitable enough. If you have a good growing business with decent margins, you can sell the business, and there's actually more buyers than we used to see before, okay? So if last year we saw mostly aggregators and you had this panel today, this year we actually see private equity firms, this year and last year as well. We see private equity firms, we see strategic buyers, okay? I don't know, toys player looking for an Amazon business.
So let me clarify. So when the aggregators created that boom, that environment where you can really sell your business and make an exit, has shifted a little bit more to the ones that realize, like you said, strategic. I want to clarify on that. If I'm already a big company that's selling a lot of toys, for me, it's strategic to keep growing my portfolio of toy brands. So I look all of a sudden, oh, these are Amazon native brands that grew and got all this market share. I should buy it, and I can pay a good multiple or a good because I know what to do with it. I know I can take it up, as opposed to maybe somebody trying to build a brand, not sure where to go.
Exactly. L'Oreal would, who's a cosmetic beauty company that we all know, would buy a cosmetic brand that's interesting enough. So there is a market, not for every brand. While in 2021 we could sell pretty much anything that was sold on Amazon. This is not 2021, but the good businesses are sold, and actually the multiples are very good for those ones. And just I'll finish with that. Aggregators are still buying. Not all of them. It's not, we used to have like 90 of them knocking on your door and sending you emails every week. They're more focused. They know what they want, usually on certain categories, so they don't buy anything, but they still buy. So, some brands that we sell...
You said 90 of them were knocking on your door, so today how many are knocking, still knocking?
I'm not a seller, so I don't see these emails, but sellers tell us we see much less of these emails than we used to see.
More than 50% drop in demand on their side?
Probably there's less than half aggregators that they used to be, but those staying... they're stronger, okay? If they survived the last year, they're stronger. So still good demand for certain brands. In some, you can see 12 people bidding on the brand. And for others, it's very difficult to sell. So you need to understand where you are. And if you have time, prepare prepare the business for sale.
Got it. Okay, good stuff. So I want to continue here to the next kind of question for you guys. We're going to shift gears a little bit more into global expansion. So help me guys out. So where do you guys sell? You sell just on Amazon USA, or do you also sell on Amazon EU or UK? Are you selling in Canada? Are you selling in Mexico? Let's see where the room is at, where it involves international selling. It'll be interesting to see the environment here, where you guys are really focused at. And based on that, we'll be able to kind of develop the discussion regarding global expansion. So let's start opening up the results, see what we got. Okay, so the overwhelming majority here, more than 70% so far, Amazon US base. I think that's what we kind of expected. We have a good amount of, 17% around Amazon EU, UK, a little bit Canada, Mexico just popped in. That's pretty good. Which leads us to the next question here. So because most of you here are on Amazon USA, the next question is this. Do you plan to expand to EU? Right? If you're already selling in the United States, you have a good brand, you're making good revenue. Are you planning to maybe open it in the UK, still in English, right? You can send your products to FBA there. The listings can be pretty much all the same. Maybe even the keywords that you're bidding on could be the same. Do you plan to, do you expect to do that, or you plan to do that? Let's see where you guys are at. All right, so 33% yes. Okay, so I mean there's interest here, understanding that it's strategic for you guys to keep developing your brand and really thinking globally about the global reach of your brand. So Melanie, for you, the question is, it begs the question, what are the common mistakes with global expansion and, and tax setup for global expansion? What are the common biggest mistakes you usually see, or the fundamental ones?
So I would say that the mistakes that are there, actually, just going back to the stats a bit, these stats are very, very interesting. I think coming to Israel, we actually expected that this is more like of a US-driven market. We were talking before I came in here, because I've got my colleague Timothy at the back from New York. And I was like, Tim, you need to be the one that's coming up on stage because, I know Israeli sellers, they don't like Europe, and I don't know why. I think it's deemed as probably very, very difficult. But at the same time, as an entrepreneur, how I deem this is that we're everywhere. The road that is less traveled is the road whereby there is more honey on it, because everybody's scared of bees because they'll sting them. Europe is also the same. There's a lot of regulation that goes on in Europe. So that's why I would say that we see lesser and lesser sellers. Europe has changed. Previous years, anybody could have sold in the UK or in Europe, taking advantage of the market space and the population. But what's changed is that they now introduce stronger, stringent regulation. We saw, I would say, probably the highest numbers of Chinese sellers leaving that market because they were cracking down on stats because they were not registering for VAT. A lot of people from other countries as well, they took advantage of the VAT, which is another regulation. Now, I would say I would have said previously, if you asked me this question in previous years, I would have turned around and said, well, sellers, they don't register for VAT. Now, the answer to that is that today, it's quite impossible to trade in Europe without VAT because Amazon is going to be made responsible of paying for those taxes.
I want to step into interrupt for a second, just for the ones of you, I know I met some of you in the room that are, thinking about selling on Amazon and stuff like that. So I'm going to give an explanation about the VAT. So correct me if I'm wrong, it's value added tax.
Correct.
I'm going to say it in Hebrew. I think it's ma'am, mas ech musaf. Mochim be'Europa, when you sell in Europe, you have to set that registration. It's critical, so you're going to be able to collect the ma'am or the VAT, and then pay it to the authorities. If you're selling in the UK, you pay it to Her Majesty's, what's it called? His sorry.
His Majesty.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
His Majesty's tax collection. What's it called?
Yeah, it's HMRC, which is His Majesty Revenue Service.
Got it. And then in Germany, the IRS there or whatever it's called. Yeah. So yeah, that's a critical setup. So yeah, I just want to make sure they understand the context of VAT. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, but the VAT is, I think you do have VAT here in Israel. It's a tax that is levied on goods and services. So which means that in the US currently, if a state imposes sales tax, you will be charging the sales tax at checkout stage of the cart when somebody is actually buying the product. But in Europe, it's built in on the product, which is why most sellers, they think that it's a difficult market because they look at the 20% as a rate and look at it as something that is difficult. Now, if I look at the stats here and I'm looking at how many sellers are expanding over into Europe, and the people sitting next to you, they haven't expanded into Europe. All of you guys are all racing into the US market. Europe is a very good market for the right product. Europe, I would say one of the challenges that we see in Europe is that you're going to think that, I'm going to be selling in the UK, or I'm going to be selling in France, Germany, and you don't do your translations. Now, that is a problem because if I speak a different language, I want to see your translations in all the products that you're actually listing. So that is easy because that would be just done on packaging. So all of a sudden, your product at the moment, it's easy because you're just pushing them in one language. It is probably in English and Spanish if we are selling in America. And if you are not actually seriously doing your listings in Spanish, you might actually be losing those Spanish audience that are in America. So same applies with Europe. Probably the difficulty with Europe is the fact that you're going to have to make sure that you've got the translation that is going on. Now, one of the common mistakes, and I'm not going to say only just in Europe, in general with e-commerce, even when you're selling in America, I don't want to embarrass anyone, but if I ask how many people here, they are compliant with sales tax, how many people here know about Nexus? How many people know that they have to file a return at the end of the year to declare that they do not live in America? You'll find that there's lesser people that do that. So I would say as entrepreneurs, it's just ensuring that it doesn't matter which platform you're trading in, is making sure that you are compliant. Because the fact that you've got a business and you are trading in a foreign country, even if the laws are blurred, sometimes you're not sure whether I have to register in all the 50 states of America for sales tax. I would say that hire a specialist, somebody that is going to tell you as far as like, what is it that you've got to do? So be compliant in somehow, because when the time comes for you to exit your business, and I think I used to see this with aggregators, when they were buying American focused businesses or incorporated in America, they had clauses on their contracts to say that if the tax authorities or the IRS comes to us within the 5-year period, we will come back and claw money from you.
To the original owners, meaning if I sold the business, make an exit, there's in the agreement says within the next 5 years, any issues with the tax authorities, it goes back to me.
That's
so you
correct.
can't really push it to the next guy. So it's very important to, yeah, that's a easy mistake you can do, thinking, oh, I can mess around a little bit, sell it, and nothing's going to happen. So that can be a mistake. I just want to recap on the few points that I did gather from what you're saying. So 2 fundamental things. Of course, the VAT registration, the VAT setup, to making sure that you have that all in compliance. And of course, if I understand correctly, every quarter, right, you have to file with the government. So you got to make sure you keep on filing it and paying it. It's a whole process. You got to make sure you have the right setup so you never miss a beat and you never get into trouble with any tax compliance issues. And then the second thing you mentioned was the translations. So you got to really make sure. So would you say that it will be probably the easiest thing to do is to start with the UK because it's already in English? So it's low-hanging fruit. Maybe there's a little bit of language nuances you might want to figure out for your listing, or and then expand to Germany and the rest?
Yeah, I would say that, and I've seen most Israeli sellers that they expand over into Europe. They start with UK as a platform from an English point of view. They speak the same language. Now, I would say that that is a mistake. And the reason why I say it's a mistake is because, you know, the German audience and the French audience and the Spanish, Italian audience, they are totally different from the UK. So probably the UK is going to be good from a language point of view, so that's good for you. But is it good for your business? That is questionable. So again, it's going back and doing your research and ensuring that where you're going to be planting your product, you're just not placing it in a country whereby you are comfortable with because you feel like it's going to be easy for you. If you're selling a product, you need to think about your clients or the audience that you're going to be selling your products to. So yes, getting your translations, or your product translated, not just in one language. And I think it's sort of like setting up your business from the first stage. Most of the clients that come to us, I used to ask them in earlier stages where I used to talk to each and every client that, are you planning to exit your business at some point in time? I hated it when they turned around and said, no, we're not planning to exit. I'm like, I don't want to work with this person because I'm looking for people that are looking to sell their businesses. Now, the reason I was asking that question is not really from an exit point of view, but it's just ensuring that you've got all the necessary steps for you to make sure that you are compliant in each and every aspect of your business, that even if you had to sell it one day, you've got everything that is in order. So you've got your ducks in a row.
Mel, one small question, because you've been in this space since like 2012 or something. I've noticed that toys are sold very well in Europe. Are there categories that you should, stay away? I mean, you shouldn't sell in Europe at all. And are there categories that are very successful in Europe? Can you give us some insights?
So I would say that toys, they sell well in Europe, but toys is a very, very saturated industry. It depends. You have to keep up with all the changes that happen all the time. And I would turn around and say, if you sell things like toys, definitely have a website for your own. Look at the likes of Shopify. Look at other marketplaces that are sort of like bigger. I'm going to make an example. If you sold in Poland and you've got a VAT number in Poland, then think about the fact that there is Allegro, which is a local platform. Now, the people in Allegro, they will never go and buy on Amazon. And the reason why they do that is because they love to support their locals. So Allegro is a good platform for them. Amazon is coming in to disrupt. If you compare the sizes of those markets, it's sort of like different. Now, I wouldn't turn around and say, do not sell any other product that is out there. I would say, honestly, do your research on the product that you're going to be putting into the EU or into the UK market. If you think about surf gear, if you've got surfing gear, I had a client that's from the US. They were selling paddle boards. Now, pedal boards, they didn't do well in Europe at all.
What's that product?
Pedal boards for surfing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
got it.
So,
Pedal board.
Yeah. So they didn't do well in Europe at all, and he thought that we've got beaches in the UK, so in summer probably it could work. Now, we diverted that client over to Australia because Australia was a better market for them. It's got better beaches, it's got better weather than in Europe. So I would turn around and say it's research. I mean, Amy Wiesen was talking about ChatGTP out here. You know, ask ChatGTP, you know, talk to that slickly up about anything that's you sort of like unsure of, and it's going to give you a lot of information. So I would say do your research on the products that you have to launch. But also, I'm going to take countries like Spain and Italy. I don't sell on Amazon. Well, I sell a book on Amazon. Amazon has never shut me down. But if I was ever going to sell any product, if I were looking at Spain and Italy, I'd be thinking about those people, those countries, they like cooking. So for me, my focus
Home and
would
kitchen.
be, I'll be looking at home goods, kitchen goods, and I'm thinking about the local audience as far as like what is it that they like. When it comes to UK, we are not specific. We just buy anything that's there. If it doesn't work, we put it to the charity shop. That's the culture in the UK. So it's knowing your audience that you're actually launching.
Yeah, I like
into.
it. You're saying, you know, think as a brand, and for my brand, which culture and environment will be the best fit for my brand first, and based on that, build everything else. Build the compliance, right? Make sure you have a strategic, you know, vision to the future. If you want to make an exit, make sure that everything's healthy, especially on the tax compliant, so it doesn't strike you back. Of course, the translation and the way you package it for the consumers. Okay, I want to switch gears into the next question here. Okay, so we're gonna switch gears a bit more into compliancy. Did you ever get your listing suspended? Let's see what you guys are at with that. Did any of your listing ever get suspended on Amazon? Let's see what happened to this room. Would you look at that?
Surprise.
Overwhelming majority of the sellers here so far had their listing suspended. Typically, it can be because of complaints you get. Maybe it's an IP complaint. Maybe it's an issue with the visuals that you have, the pictures or the video or the copyright. You never know where it's going to strike you from, but it seems like 85% here has experienced that, so that's a bit of a challenge. And then another question here is, did Amazon ask you to validate your info, your seller info for the Inform Act? Right? It's a recent thing that happened. Amazon, the government. Yeah, you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yes, it's a new federal regulation that will be implemented on marketplaces, not on sellers, in June 27 this year. And marketplaces have to prepare for this, for the regulation. Otherwise, they will be fined from the FTC, which is the federal body. And the whole point here is transparency and to fight counterfeit goods, bad actors, black hat tactics, and they do that through going through steps of more and more transparency, which will also coordinate with the European view of things. Mm-hmm. So you'll have to provide accurate seller information, your business information, a phone number, an email that you can be reached at, and eventually, it's like this. What happened about 2 years ago when Amazon decided to put on display in the U.S. Your business information and your legal entity on the storefront, so there is someone that you can turn to if there's an issue with the product or if there's an issue with the store. Same here. This information needs to be accurate. It will need to be updated and confirmed yearly.
Once a year. Every year you got to do it once again. Yeah?
Every year. I'm assuming that because it's across the board and it's very specific information, there would be probably some sort of system to just confirm, and you don't have to go through scrutiny and verification. I think this is the first time now everybody's going through it. And because it's new and Amazon is making mistakes along the way, the good news is that they would work with you. It's not like when you first start your business and you want to verify yourself for the first time, if you get some sort of document wrong, it's really hard to convince Amazon to revisit and review your documents again. Or if you tell them that you don't have a document and you argue with them, they'll probably prefer to not do business with you and not let you into the platform rather than look into it and work with you. Here, they understand that the system is new and they are experimenting with you, so there's more communication. Actually, if you want to talk to seller performance right now and any other issue, you would have a problem because they're all occupied with the 6 million sellers that they have to verify. Anybody selling on Amazon.
Did you see sellers get suspended because of the inform issue or no?
So the law, it's not up to Amazon's discretion. The law requires Amazon to suspend sellers that do not comply or do not provide the information within the time limit that is allocated to this, but it's a temporary suspension. So that means that Amazon will work with you, and as long as eventually you do provide the correct documents, and a lot of the time it's just understanding what Amazon wants, and if you're adamant that you've provided everything that you could and that Amazon is stupid, revisit your documents, something is missing, but they will work with you, call with them, talk to them. It's really, they even made the account, the health account right now easier to see. You have like a checklist with a V, and it tells you each stage of the process where it is, if it's in processing, or it's been reviewed, and it's been verified. I can tell you that once you pass the verification stage, a lot of sellers get an email confirming that it was verified and everything is fine, but then you wake up in the morning and you still have that banner, that really cruel banner across your account health saying that you're at risk of deactivation. And you lose a few years when you wake up to that in the morning. If you received an email from Amazon confirming that you passed the verification, that's what trumps. That is what is the decisive evidence that it's okay. The banner takes a little longer because they're not communicating with each other perfectly. But actually, if you go into Amazon's most asked questions about the Inform Act, they have common questions, and one of them is reassuring you, choose the email. The email is the correct one, the more accurate one. Ignore the banner. It's going to go away.
So they're saying that. They're admitting that this banner, technology, whatever's pushing it, it's not so in sync with the actual status of your account.
Exactly. And I want to say something. A lot of people come to me, and also today, asking me, how come Amazon is so all over the place, and they're not organized, and it doesn't suit them and for this act that's coming up? So I'll tell you what, it's the wrong question. It's how come Amazon has the courtesy to work with you and give you notice, as opposed to eBay or Etsy or Walmart, that sellers have no idea that this is going to be implemented at the end of June. So Amazon is working with you. So they're not perfect, and their systems are not really, working with each other in sync, but they're working with you. They gave you notice. They let you know. They give you information. They give you in the news what's going to happen. They show you the law. You are aware of what's going to happen. Other marketplaces are going to be in shock because this applies to any marketplace where there's a seller in the U.S. account.
This is the seller performance of America. This is,
yes,
the federal government.
Yes, but it doesn't matter if you live in Europe. If you're selling a .com, it applies to you. It's not just for American sellers. It's for any seller that participates in the U.S. marketplace. So, yeah, they're not perfect, but they're giving you the courtesy, and they're working with you. So I actually appreciate this step with Amazon.
Okay, I want to kind of everybody take a moment to focus on the next question here. So do you have a trademark or patent set up for your Amazon products? Any of your products? Does it have either a trademark or patent? If it is, feel free to share with us. Let's see what you guys have here. Look at that. Wow. You got a pretty professional audience here. So I guess when it comes to trademarks, what's the typical mistakes that you see? So it seems like most of them have a trademark or patent. Now that they have it, what can they avoid, or what kind of other mistakes they might do, even though they have a trademark?
It will take me back to the initial question when you asked Yael about common mistakes and what would take preparation and not immediate. A lot of sellers, when they start their business, like Yael said, they register a trademark, but then they end up selling the same brand, same trademark, completely different products. So they didn't look to the future and see what other products potentially they would want to sell. So even though they have a registered trademark and they have brand registry, their trademark doesn't cover the goods that they end up selling 5 years later.
So let's say I started a trademark and I was selling shoes, but now I'm selling toys.
Right, it's a completely different
On the
category.
same trademark, it's a problem, right?
Trademarks are territorial, so you need to make sure that you're registered in the market where you want to enforce your rights. I would actually, if you also manufacture abroad, I would also register a trademark where you manufacture, so you can't be hijacked, like for example, China. You could have a great trademark in the US, but then someone in China would hijack your trademark and they'll have to start negotiations when we've had these situations, and they come up a lot of the times when there's an exit. And you would also need to think of if your trademark at this point covers your goods, because even if you have brand registry, you can only enforce. Brand registry has a lot of benefits. You have A+ content. You have control over your listing and your language and your text. You can remove competitors, but you can only enforce it if your trademark covers the goods that you're selling. So it could be that you have brand registry for hats, Shira trademark for hats, but you're actually selling toys, like you said. You won't be able to remove hijackers.
So how do you remedy
or
that?
enforce
So
your
every time
rights.
you expand to a different category, you have to call your
You
lawyer and
can't-
say, hey, can you add that category?
The minute you submit your application, you can't change the list of goods, the categories that you've chosen in that application. You can reduce it, you can minimize it, but you can't expand. So you'll have to submit a new trademark application. And each application takes its time to process. I
How long
think in
did
the
you
US it's about
9
a
months or
year.
more?
In Canada it could be 2 years.
In Canada, it's 2 years. I would maybe add to that the search problem that we see a lot.
Right. A lot of sellers choose a brand that they like because they feel close to it, or it's a name that they've become attached to, but they don't really take the effort to do a search before they start selling and before they associate that brand to their listing. And one thing that people don't know, that's a common mistake, is that you cannot change your brand once an ASIN is associated to it. So let's say I chose a brand and I already put it on packaging and I marketed it and I ordered inventory and it's on its way. And what do you know? There's a similar mark out there and I'm infringing, or it's super generic and I'll never be able to register it. So the listing would accumulate reviews, accumulate history, but I wouldn't be able to enforce it properly. I would have trouble with it along the way. And when it comes to an exit, it wouldn't have a lot of value because I don't really own it. It's not an asset that is mine.
So what would somebody even continue with that trail if they don't have the right protections?
Well, Yael, you want to answer?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the bottom line is just conduct a search through a professional. By the way, it's free for most attorneys do it as part of the thing. Just conduct a search before you choose the brand, okay? Because if you do it later and this brand is taken, you can't get a trademark and you're stuck with it because you can't change the brand on the listing, like Shira said. So the bottom line is just conduct the search at the beginning. And don't go through all that.
So you're saying a lot of the sellers are just kind of like a name, they file their trademark, and that's it.
They often do a Google search and they do a quick USPTO search, but they don't know how to do a USPTO search, okay? GETIDA, if you search for GETIDA and you didn't find anything, oh, great, I'll continue with it, and let's go to every conference in the world under the GETIDA brand. And so you can, do a professional search because GETIDA with 2D, maybe you didn't see it, or GETID is also very close to your brand, and that's a problem that will stop you. Okay?
And they might, like these guys who have already a trademark that it's very similar, they might, and they sell in the same category, they might reach out and have an issue with you, yeah?
They don't even need to. You can't trademark it.
Oh, they block you.
You're applying for it, and the examiner will tell you, you can't get
It's
it.
too close to these guys, so they're
action.
going to block your whole process and just waste
And
the
you
time.
have no trademark, and so no brand registry. Every hijacker can jump on your listing. So just do the search at the beginning. Doesn't cost you anything.
I'd like to interject and say that there are a lot of services out there for trademark registration. Pick wisely. Amazon and the USPTO actually just invalidated and canceled over 5,500 trademarks that have been in application and registration. and Amazon informed those sellers that their brand registry and trademark is void because it turned out that these services were, I would say, scammers, or I was going to use a more delicate word, but yeah, they posed to be attorneys, they weren't attorneys, they did all kinds of mistakes on purpose, so you have to pay them to correct those mistakes. I mean, you get what you pay for, but this is a stage where you're going to build your business on this. Take the time, and it's not that expensive, and do it right the first time.
Yeah, I like that. If you do something, do it right. Okay, so I want to start packaging kind of, and summarize this panel here. So we discussed exits, what's going on with the exit markets, common mistake the sellers do, what's the environment right now. Yael mentioned that strategic, it's a good opportunity. So and it seems like the majority here wants to plan to sell between a 2 or 3 year run. So now is the good time to really prep it up. I recommend use an investment bank to really prepare a business, because even if you don't sell it, you're really going to understand what's working with your business. And because of that, you're going to have a good business. And that's a good thing for you to have all the time. And because of that, you can always be able to sell it. As Melanie mentioned, if you want to expand globally, make sure you have the tax set up, the compliancy of the tax, the translations, and also making sure that you have the right market fit. The culture and the category, make sure that makes sense for your brand, for you as a business and as a brand to be there. And as Shira mentioned, we talk about the trademarks and the benefits of that and the protection, and making sure that if you are going to expand to other categories, you have the right setup. So that's kind of what we discussed today. I do want to kind of conclude and mention that I want to thank again, the whole ScaleForEtail and the Fortunet team that created this beautiful event. I think that we're very privileged. This whole industry, we're in the digital industry of e-commerce, and there's an amazing ability to reach out to hundreds of millions of consumers all over the world, and really do it from the comfort of your computer. But what it really, really takes to make it this successful long term is learning, constantly learning. So the fact that you guys are all here, I think you're doing a great service for yourself. So thank you all for coming. So hopefully you're going to enjoy the content, but also network with each other. I'm pretty sure that a lot of new connections will be made. So this is the wonderful thing that we really believe in. So I want to give you guys a round of applause. Clap your hands for yourself for coming. And thank you for attending.